Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am Sandy Shellis. I haven't changed. And this is my partner, Jennifer Hines. Hello.
And I am also still Jennifer Hines,
She
and I
is,
haven't changed either.
no, no, but you look great behind with the fire behind us. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah, isn't that
yes.
fabulous? We've got a
Yes,
little
yes,
fire
yes.
tonight.
Yes, and we have a great group out there. Hi, Bila, who is actually here in my home, who is going to help me set up the new computer and clean up this office, and he's a wonderful person. Hi, BB. Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, Honey Buddy Jean. Oh my gosh, Gary. Thank you, Kim, for moderating, and Gary and everyone. We have a very busy show. Christine and Tom Hall, hello. And Trish Kaiser. It's great, great, great. Rich Diana, of course. Great to have you all with us. But we've got to jump in. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Yes,
We
yes,
do.
yes.
We do. It is such an ambitious show, so we're going to have to be super disciplined, lickety split, but hold on to your seats, baby.
Yeah, we're starting with a
So,
video, actually.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're going to start with video, which I won't tell you what it is. Sandy will surprise
Mm-mm.
you. And we're
Mm-hmm.
going to start out after that with an article from the Barents Observer from our favorite person over there, Thomas Nilsson. And it is called Russia Tests Latest Underwater Warfare Technology in the Barents Sea.
Lovely.
Right.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh.
Okay. And I'm not sure I have the right one
That's all right. That's
from talk shop to regional block.
Gerzo.
What to make of
No.
Shanghai?
Yep. Yep.
That doesn't sound
That's the
right.
one. Oh no, it's
Is
right.
it?
It's right. Just wait till
Okay.
you guys hear this one. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Okay. And then we're just going to give a quick nod to something from science.house.gov, amplifying the Arctic, strengthening science to respond to a rapidly changing Arctic. So this is more to alert you that this
Yeah.
article is out there. And then I believe we are going to
Video time.
have a video
Yeah, it's
and
interactive night.
yeah, interactive night, and why Russia is building an Arctic Silk Road. You can start to see a theme.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then from the Arctic Institute, getting U.S. Arctic security right. So everyone's really, really, really interested in the Arctic, as you can see, the U.S. included. They're trying to get their claws in there. And then we've got one from phys.org, identifying research priorities for security and safety threats in the Arctic and the North Atlantic. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of one extreme weather event that happened in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to take kind of like articles from 2 different days from the same publication. Alaska braces for impact of historic level storms. That was the before. And
Yeah,
then the
which
after.
mm-hmm.
Never this severe. Alaska residents flee from flooding as powerful storm slams state. So you can see what's been happening in Alaska. Pretty scary.
Yes, pretty scary.
And pretty scary. And Sandy, I believe you have a couple of little videos to put in there.
Oh yeah. So we're busy. So listen, guys, I want you to get your popcorn. I want you to sit back. We have a video.
And we're not
to start.
done yet. We're not done yet.
That's right.
Not done yet. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
my
even more.
goodness.
So we'll see. We'll see. You know, we're going to have to be fast. But
Yeah, good
this
show.
one, scientists suggest a stopgap solution for refreezing melting ice. It will cost, I can't imagine the comments in the chat. It will cost a whopping $11 billion yearly. So they're trying to refreeze the Arctic and Antarctica as well.
Yeah,
and then we're going to end up with an
that.
opinion. Yeah, we're going to end up with an opinion piece. If we keep rolling the dice, we'll eventually get our apocalypse.
Yeah.
And that is that. And we are also going to look at a chart at some point about the Arctic sea ice extent. just to
So,
see how
yep.
we're clocking this year. And I'm not sure where you want to throw that in, but you let me know.
We'll get there. All right. So
All
listen,
right.
guys, we're going to start with this video. It is just sit back with your popcorn. It goes with the theme of the show. And I don't know if you've seen it. I don't care because you're going to see it again. And it's actually really well done and it tells a story. Let's go.
In the 19th century, Western nations carved up the global map according to age-old rules of sovereignty. The first country to plant the flag would control all the resources as long as it could defend it. That era may be long gone, but the tactics still persist. Just look at the Arctic. This desolate region, frozen all year round, is at the center of a new power play, a new scramble for influence. Russia, China, America, Canada, Norway, none of them control the Arctic. All of them want to. They're racing to take control. They wish to carve new maritime borders and establish their sovereignty in the region. The question is why? And the answers are many. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. The Arctic's ice caps are melting. The seascape is changing rapidly. This map tells you the story. In the last 4 decades, the Arctic's ice sheets have declined by a stunning 95%. If emissions continue to rise unchecked, the Arctic could be ice-free by the summer of 2040. For most of the world, melting ice means a disaster. But for Arctic nations, it also means new opportunities, access to a brand new ocean with brand new resources. What kind of resources? Listen to this. 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of the world's undiscovered gas, an abundance of uranium, gold, diamonds, rare earth minerals, and fisheries galore, all up for grabs. Here's what a 2018 survey said. The Arctic could hold 90 billion barrels of oil, 669 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, and 44 billion barrels of natural gas liquids. They're all hidden beneath the Arctic. Their cumulative worth could run into trillions of dollars. And that's just one aspect. The melting ice would also create new sea routes, shortcuts that will be tempting time savers. They could reduce the distance between Europe and Asia by 40%. Allow me to explain. Typically, a ship from Rotterdam to Japan would use the Suez Canal and take 30 days. Once the Arctic ice melts, the new routes emerge. The distance is going to shrink. The Rotterdam-Japan trip would take just 18 days. This could help shipping companies reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. It could also bring clout to countries looking for a competitive edge. I'll try to further simplify this. Every year, more than 14,000 ships transit the Panama Canal. More than 20,000 ships use the Suez Canal in Egypt. How many ships pass through the Arctic? Fewer than 100. This number could increase when the ice sheets disappear. This would save both time and money, not to mention smoothen global trade. You might remember the Ever Given fiasco. A single ship stranded the Suez Canal. It halted international trade for weeks. The Arctic faces no such challenges without ice. There are no canals. The routes cannot be blocked, not by ships at least. This will bring more resilience to the global shipping infrastructure. So to put it simply, in the coming years, the Arctic is going to be of great strategic importance, which is why countries are vying for influence here. There are at least 8 of them: Canada, the United States, Russia, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, and Denmark. They all have territories within the Arctic with overlapping claims of economic sovereignty. For a long time, these claims did not transform into disputes thanks to a United Nations Convention. This convention granted all 8 countries equal rights, exclusive economic zones up to 200 miles beyond their coast. They could fish, they could mine and dig for oil, but only within these zones. The waters beyond these zones were deemed heritage of all mankind, common property that anyone could use. It was all fine until the end of the 20th century, but since then, each country has been making attempts to change the status quo. In 2007, the US started mapping to determine the extent of its control. In 2013, Canada extended its territorial claim up to the North Pole. And in 2015, Russia claimed 1.2 million square kilometers of the Arctic Sea shelf. So each side has staked claim with varying degrees of power. The question is, who will ultimately win? Who really owns the Arctic? Under the law of the sea, every country owns the Arctic equally, but it is Russia that wields the most control, courtesy the United Nations Convention. Article 234 of this convention states, and I'm quoting, "In the name of the prevention, reduction and control of marine pollution from vessels, countries whose coastlines are near Arctic shipping routes have the ability to regulate the route's maritime traffic so long as the area remains ice-covered for the majority of the year." Russia interprets this article to justify its control simply because it has the largest coastline in the Arctic. It stretches a total of 24,000 kilometers. That's 53% of the Arctic Ocean's coastline. Plus, Russia has the most number of icebreakers. It operates a fleet of 40. Canada operates more than 21. The United States has just 2. Why do icebreakers matter? They give Russia an edge. The ability to navigate the Arctic faster, the ability to help ships that get stuck, and so by default, the ability to dictate terms. For decades, Russia has used these advantages to further its interests, especially along the Northern Sea route. One Russian law requires all vessels passing through here to be either accompanied or captained by Russian sailors. Moscow also asks passing vessels to pay tolls and provide advance notices of their journeys. And that's not all. Russia has also militarized the Arctic heavily. In the last 7 years, it has expanded its northern fleet, reopened old naval bases, set up new Air Force camps, increased submarine patrols, established a pair of Arctic brigades, and reorganized its military to create an Arctic command. Alongside this military buildup, Russia also engages in frequent provocations, like sending its bombers to Canada's Arctic coast, letting them stray across Finland's borders, and sending its officials to Norwegian-administered Arctic territories. Russia has also roped in China for help. In 2018, China declared itself a near-Arctic state, which makes no sense. Even China's northernmost part is 900 miles away from the Arctic Circle, but China has declared itself near-Arctic and Russia has backed China's bid. This tilts the strategic balance in Moscow's favor. It establishes a Sino-Russia alliance in the Arctic. Now, what does China bring to the table? More muscle, more infrastructure, more icebreakers. China is building a polar Silk Road in the Arctic, an offshoot of the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. It is also carrying out scientific research expeditions. Today, there are Chinese researchers in Svalbard, a territory owned by Norway. Chinese icebreakers are also frequent visitors here. They're equipped with state-of-the-art monitoring systems. These vessels survey the seafloor for resources. The Russia-China alliance may be working for now, but it may not last forever. China is known for harboring big ambitions, and Russia is known for being protective of its stakes. Their positions will harden as the ice melts. As Arctic routes become more accessible and lucrative, the cracks will begin to show in more ways than one. And that said, this polar power play also runs certain risks. It will open up the region to human activity. This will disturb Arctic communities and ecosystems. It will cause coastal erosion in Arctic nations, force Arctic countries to move inwards, trigger severe environmental degradation, and might just release long dormant diseases. And I know this may sound like a science fiction plot, but it is rooted in reality. Scientists say mysterious microbes are lying dormant below these ice sheets, unknown viruses that have been thriving in extreme conditions. No one knows how old they are. They could be a century old, maybe millennia. Once the ice thaws, these microbes could be awakened from their slumber. The implications of this could be disastrous. In 2016, a deadly anthrax outbreak in Siberia was linked to the thawing of an infected reindeer. It was buried in the permafrost some 70 years back. A heat wave melted the surrounding ice and exposed the corpse to open air. The microbes spread, infected dozens of people, and killed thousands of reindeer. My point is quite simple. The Arctic ice melt will have far-reaching consequences. It may be good for business and trade, but it's not good for the planet.
So there you go. There was a reason why we played this. I could have done all the information that she provided, but it would have taken me a long time. She has a staff and a news channel. But it was actually a very good way to open this, and we have more. We really do. But I thought it made sense to the bigger picture of what we're talking about here tonight. And I wanted to say to Gary Hoover earlier about war, we're not really actually talking about war like, killer war. And we're talking about a earth war, planetary war. So there you go. What do you think, Jen?
Well, I think it was a pretty hard-hitting video. I gotta
Yeah.
commend her for covering a lot of points and also covering the permafrost degradation
Yeah.
that's
Very
setting
good.
in and will continue to escalate. She inferred methane, but she didn't really say the M word, but that's cool. I mean, she covered a lot of stuff. So yeah, good video. Thank you,
Good, good,
Sandy.
good. All right. So here we go. We are
Mhm.
now, Jennifer's going to start with the Barents Observer because, like, we are taking you on a flow. We are taking you on a journey through all the Arctic topics. So, Jennifer, take it away.
Yeah,
It's Thomas
Cindy.
Nilsson.
Tomas Nilsson. Russia tests latest underwater warfare technology in the Barents Sea. The Krasnoyarsk and Generalissimo Suvorov are the most advanced nuclear submarines ever built by the Sevmoush Yard. So this just out. Protection is ensured by Dmitry Donskoy, only Typhoon-class submarine still in operation, state-affiliated news agency TASS on Tuesday reported. Krasnoyarsk is the third of the upgraded Yasen and multi-purpose subs armed with cruise missiles, torpedoes, and surface-to-air missiles. The vessel was launched last summer and set out for Severodvinsk to the White Sea for the first sea trials this spring for weapons testing when performing the cat and mouse game. Hiding and detecting the larger Barents Sea is more suitable. The only other new submarine currently on sea trials in the waters north of Kola Peninsula is the Generalissimo Suvorov. This is the third Borai A-class ballistic missile submarine armed with Bulva intercontinental missile. Generalissimo Suvorov started sea trials about the same time as Krasnoyarsk. When final approvals are given, both submarines are expected to be part of Russia's Pacific Fleet.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend, the press service of the Northern Fleet said anti-submarine aviation was conducting exercises over Barents Sea. IL-38 and Tu-142 aircraft, along with Ka-27 anti-submarine helicopters, flew tactile search and tracing and training. Yasen class is Russia's fourth generation multi-purpose submarine and is of big concern for NATO in the North Atlantic. Its weapon
Da-da-da-da.
capacities and ability to sail quietly and avoid detection could pose a threat to both military installations on land and enemy Navy vessels. Last fall, the first vessel
New
of the
ones.
class, Severodvinsk, made a first-time test launch of the hypersonic Zircon cruise missile in the Barents Sea. Also armed with Caliber missiles, the Yasen-class subs could make big trouble for NATO's reinforcement plans for Europe in case of conflict by effectively hitting NATO Navy ships in the North Atlantic.
So that's what's going on in the
So,
nuclear sub testing.
right.
But,
Bigger and better all
yeah.
over the Arctic.
Yeah, and everybody wants to be in the show. But now we're going to move on quickly because I
Yes.
want to introduce this to you. If you don't know what this is, well, basically, you know how everyone always talks about Davos and Klaus Schwab and all of that elitists over there. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They just had their meeting. As the Shanghai Cooperation Organization met last week in Uzbekistan, observers braced for impact. Would China's Xi Jinping meet India's Narendra Modi? No. Would Modi meet Pakistan's PM Shehbaz Sharif? Also, No. Would anybody put Vladimir Putin in his place? Well, Modi sort of did. Would China get real with Russia over Ukraine? Not really. Though Putin did emerge as oblivious, as the oblivious junior partner to Xi in the huddle, amid the fanfare and the photo ops, these developments pose larger questions. Is the SCO relevant? Does it have bloc potential? Is it a threat to the West? The Big Brother Club. Given the exception of India, the SCO is often thought of as a talking shop of autocratic regimes. But between its 8 members, China, India, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, it represents 3.1 billion people. And it spans most of Eurasia and boasts a quarter of the world's GDP, thanks to some of the world's biggest energy reserves. So, moreover, it's still getting bigger. Iran just acceded as a full member. Belarus is hoping to be next, and Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Nepal, Maldives, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and Turkey have also taken the first step towards membership by signing on as dialogue partners. The SCO is also expanding to the Middle East as Bahrain, Egypt, Kuwait, Qatar, as well as Saudi Arabia have become partners. So what do they really do? Well, in terms of substantive stuff, the SCO, it really doesn't do much, said Nicole Grajewski of Harvard's Belfer Center. It is a way for a lot of the elites in that region. See what I'm saying? It's like, no, the elites are everywhere. But they are in that region to justify some of their policies that might be inherently autocratic. Now, they were founded in 2001 to stabilize China and Russia's security and border ties with the Central Asian stans, and was originally driven by China's war against what Beijing described as the 3 evils: terrorism, separatism, and extremism. But now, Grajewski says, it creates a focus for members to justify their harsh actions against color revolutions, as well as defend policies for regions like Xinjiang. This makes the SCO a particularly important driver for Beijing, for it's China's first foray into making its own multilateral organization. But a bloc, it is not. Eurasia's groups, Zach Wilton says several of the founding members are already part of security and trade blocs, like the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, a Russia-dominated security bloc of 6 ex-Soviet states that includes a commitment to collective defense. But these existing blocs are not as effective as they might sound on paper because there is not a strong enough overlap of member states' interests, he says. So just last week, the CSTO member states clashed in 2 separate military conflicts: Armenia versus Azerbaijan and Kyrgyzstan versus Tajikistan, showing how members don't follow the letter or the spirit of the bloc. Whitland thinks that even if the SCO were to replicate the region's bloc template, there would be too many differences between members. The Indians, for instance, won't deal with the Chinese or the Pakistanis and vice versa, at least as far as we are in the same security bloc rules of engagements go. Regardless, Beijing is taking the lead in pushing for economic union. Xi Jinping recently said that he wants to expand shares of local currency settlement, better develop the system for cross-border payment, as well as to establish an SCO development bank. Xi also says that he wants to set up an SCO Big Data Cooperation Center as soon as next year and help members with space tech. These are big plans, but they don't portray the bigger point. They talk a lot. pointing to lengthy statements about economic coordination, which is countered naturally by already operational frameworks like China's BRI and Russia's Eurasian Economic Union, making both Beijing and Moscow skeptical of turning the organization into something that's more economic focused. The rhetoric, she says, is performative because Russia doesn't have the means to really pursue economic integration, and the regional states are averse to devolving any type of sovereignty in pursuit of more integration. But the SCO is driving some issues. Counterterrorism is the leading one. Afghanistan, the never-ending South and Central Asian security cesspit, kept popping up in statements this year, but the organization had graduated beyond paying lip service to action with the regional anti-terrorism structure. Established in 2002, it puts members, leaders, and troops in the same room and on the same training ground to counter regional separatism and extremism. It has to be remembered that the SCO has pulled off the near impossible through the RATS mechanism, said Shashini Hadar, the diplomatic editor of The Hindu, who was in Uzbekistan to cover the recent summit. She points out a major achievement. The Indians and Pakistanis last year trained together in RATS drills in Pakistan, and the Pakistanis have just confirmed that they will be training with Indian troops again next month. These are big firsts. These exercises, considering the violent history between the two nuclear armed rivals, but the exercises premised on countering terrorism emanating from Afghanistan could lead to larger breakthroughs between member states. So what's the view from Washington? For Washington, the SCO is also a collective group of many blacklisters and almost blacklisters. Russia and Iran are two members which top the list of America's most sanctioned regimes. China, which co-founded the organization and houses its main secretariat, isn't there yet, but it is officially the pacing challenge for the U.S. The West needs to see the SCO as an alternative to its own narrative on almost every issue, said Haidar, emphasizing that the SCO does not pretend to be a coalition of democracies. She says that the group presents an alternative spin to the Western perspective on everything, from Putin's war in Ukraine to Taiwan to sanctions on Iran, but with the theme of multilateralism, not unilateralism. So yes, they are talk shops, she says about the group, yet insists that the leadership, though coming from very different places and perspectives, is focused on connecting. But they are speaking with their feet by showing up to these conferences, which means the West should see this as an important alternative to its narrative. And I thought it was really good to include that because it's not just the West and it's not just Davos. And there are elites that are part of this organization that are from the countries we illustrated here. So I really hope that you found that you guys all found some kind of value to this. I do.
Yeah, absolutely, Sandy. It was an excellent article. Thanks for digging that up and finding it. It's very impressive, and it's really stunning when you put all of those countries together. China with Russia, with India, with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, 3.1 billion people.
Yes.
So that's just a little,
huge.
I guess, a third of, depending on how many people there are on Earth, 8 million, billion.
But meanwhile, while they were doing this, I'm going to show you that while they were doing that meeting, there was also research going on amplifying the Arctic, strengthening science to respond to a rapidly changing Arctic, and that was today. But that was academic, So I'm not going to play it, but it was just showing you that there's a lot going on in the Arctic. And now we have another video, and let's see. Whoop! I think I just lost everything. Okay, so what are you guys? Let's check in with the chat and just see how you are all doing before we play this video. And this video, I'm going to just do a little explaining. This video if you take that, Jennifer, that 10,000-mile view and look down and you really watch this video and realize that this is the consummate WASF video,
Yes.
you'll see.
Yeah,
You'll
absolutely.
see. It is by one. I have to play it through this, so we have to make sure the audio plays. Yep, system audio, and here we go. This is interesting. Just listen and watch. It's chilling, actually. All right, here we go.
A huge deal. The journey connected Asia to
Can you hear
Europe in
it?
just 19 days, far shorter than the 48 days it normally takes for ships to go from China to Europe's largest port in Rotterdam. That's right, our warming climate is melting the ice caps and has made this patch of ocean available for the first time in human history, making it easier for us to transport the fossil fuels that caused the ice to melt in the first place. It's an irony-heavy ocean trade route we've never had before, and right now Russia is in the middle of a massive construction drive to lay claim. This building right now.
Сколько вообще инвестиций, сказать?
Больше даже 10 триллионов рублей.
В конечном итоге где-то по 2% ВВП.
Это приведет к росту на 2% ВВП страны ежегодно.
Dubbed the biggest project in the modern-day global oil industry, it'll house the country's largest Arctic oil terminal, and it's so huge and so remote that state-owned oil company Rosneft will first have to build the infrastructure needed just to get to the site. New highways, 2 airports, 15 villages, and several electric plants will be developed around the area to get construction off the ground and house the 400,000 workers that are needed to make it all happen. So far, more than 18,000 tonnes of heavy machinery, living quarters, and communications equipment has been shipped to the site. The country's also building a 770-kilometre pipeline to transport oil to the port, where 10 new ice-class tankers will then take it the rest of the way to Europe and Asia. Greta Thunberg better look away now, because once fully operational, it's going to deliver 25 million tonnes of oil by 2025 and 100 million tonnes by 2030. It's worth pointing out that while the costs of this undertaking seem enormous, they pale in comparison to the profits that are set to be generated. And this megaport is only one part of a larger development scheme in the region. The Russians have long seen the potential of the Arctic. In 2007, they sent a very cold diver down to the bottom of the Arctic Sea to plant a flag at the North Pole. Then in 2019, the country announced its Northern Sea Route Development Plan. The idea is to significantly increase Russian economic development along the Northern Sea Route over the next 15 years, essentially opening the area up as an alternative to the Suez Canal for shipping cargo between Europe and Asia, especially during the summer months when the ice covering the sea could eventually disappear altogether. By 2035, Russia aims to increase cargo flow through the area by at least 72 million tonnes, and it's on track to hit that. In 2018 alone, traffic increased by 80% from the previous year to 16 million tonnes, and in 2019 it went up to 23 million. Russian Arctic infrastructure is being brought in from the cold and getting some serious cash splashed on it. Ports are being modernised, ice-class container ships are being constructed, and railways are being expanded. And it goes beyond oil. Russian state-owned energy company Rosatom, along with UAE-based DP World, are co-developing new ports at Murmansk and Vladivostok on either side of the route. They're being specially designed to transfer cargo off ice-class ships and onto ordinary vessels. The UAE isn't the only country to see the opportunity of investing in Russia's infrastructure. South Korea and China are both eager for new ports and trade routes too.
As the world is concerned about climate change and Arctic ice melt, there is one nation which of course is rejoicing in this rather worrying phenomenon. And it happens to be China.
In 2018, China declared it would cooperate with Russia on a new Arctic Silk Road, signing 20 bilateral cooperative documents and agreeing to invest in the region. As part of this, Beijing will build several Chinese docks across Russia's north, in ports that are currently underdeveloped and unable to handle massive volumes of shipping. As we said, a number of new railways are also being built to service these ports. Construction's underway on a 500-kilometre line to link Perm in the Ural Mountains with several northern port cities. Russia also recently installed a $889 million fibre nicknamed the Polar Express. The 12,600-kilometre long cable stretches from the rural village of Teryberka to Vladivostok, improving internet and phone connections for the 2.5 million people who live in Russia's far north, roughly half the population of the entire Arctic. Several civilian airports are also getting a birthday, Amderma in the west and Pivik, Chersky and Kpavem in the east. The dredging of the Gulf of Ob is set to be completed in 2022, allowing larger ships to pass through this strategic location, ships that Russia is building in spades. A fleet of at least 40 new Arctic vessels will be constructed, including 8 nuclear-powered icebreakers and 16 rescue and support ships. Some of these will be Lider-class commercial ships to then follow. Now, as you might expect, all this construction has made several countries nervous.
We're concerned about Russia's claim over the international waters of the Northern Sea Route, including its newly announced plans to connect it with China's maritime Silk Road.
The US has reminded Russia that the Northern Sea Route and Northwest Passage are used as straits for international navigation and are not exclusively under their control, although a lot of the route does fall into the country's exclusive economic zone.
No one denies Russia has significant Arctic interests. Its actions deserve special attention of this Council, in part because of their sheer scale.
Russia's also dependent on foreign investment to fund much of this new infrastructure, relying on other countries who would greatly benefit from an alternative to the Suez Canal. Now, the country's always maintained that its new oil megaports will be environmentally friendly and that they have a very small hydrocarbon footprint. The oil installations will reportedly be powered by wind turbines. But building new oil infrastructure is not really what the world needs right now, and several environmental groups have campaigned against these projects. Parts of the oil fields are located within a protected nature reserve, and construction could damage the Arctic wildlife there. Russia's the world's fourth largest emitter of greenhouse gases and ratified the Paris Agreement in 2019. Now it's committed to reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2060, although it's yet to agree to phase out coal and methane emissions over the next decade. One thing's clear, as we progress through the 21st century and sadly see less and less ice in the Arctic, the world is going to change in more ways than we expect. If you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, subscribe to the B1M.
We are coming back. We are coming back. See, that to me, right, Jennifer? Wasn't that the destruction of all time video?
Oh, yeah.
It's a construction company,
absolutely.
a huge one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's ironic, and I'd like to pay homage to a comment that Gary Hoover made during the thing where he said, "Do you see the irony of this giant resource extraction?" It's terribly ironic. And they're going to just, drive it into collapse forever, There's
Well,
no
I
getting
mean,
out of that. They never did mention permafrost, sea level rise, methane, anything like that.
no,
Actually,
it's
was never
just full
mentioned
steam
one time.
ahead. Let's extract.
Full
Let's
steam
do.
ahead.
Let's build. Let's build. They're not even talking about scientists that work with them to, that they should be working with. It was insane. But that channel, that's a worldwide construction channel, and the comments. I mean, there were thousands of comments, people just egging it on. Yes, let's go. It's wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is.
Security, we'll get rid of that. Let's start going into research and what the priorities are. You want to take this one away?
Okay, sure. Yeah. So we're going to take this one from phys.org. our old faithful, identifying research priorities for security and safety threats in the Arctic and the North Atlantic. So,
Interesting.
mhm. A new method has been developed for identifying and prioritizing research activities related to maritime safety and security issues for the Arctic and the North Atlantic. ANA. I didn't know the Arctic and the North Atlantic was called ANA, but it
Anna.
is.
Anna.
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 Researchers from the University of Portsmouth have adapted the concept of a PIC. That is an acronym: Possible, Implement, Challenge, Keep Back. Very obscure sort of acronym. So a PIC chart, they've got the concept of a PIC chart and a mathematical goal seeking technique to help prioritize needs and innovations to cope with the security and safety threats that will result from increased commercial activity in the region. The ANA region has traditionally been important in terms of fisheries and fisheries-related activities. Increasingly, the the region is experiencing more attention, resulting in greater traffic and increased human activity, including tourism, transport,
Tourism.
region, and naval fleet vessels, including submarines. As a result,
Tourism.
seaborne disasters and security threats such as territorial disputes, piracy, terrorism, collisions and accidents and natural disasters, and pollution and environmental impacts are more likely to occur. That's quite a
Phew.
list,
Quite a list.
including pirate ships. The new method will help to ensure that the most pressing maritime safety and security research and innovation is undertaken amongst governments, industry, and security organizations across many jurisdictions. The University of Portsmouth is one of the 20 partners from 12 countries in the project, which connects security and preparedness practitioners, academia, industry, and authorities to promote interaction and innovation within search and rescue, as well as oil spill response. Dylan Jones, professor of operational research at the University of Portsmouth, said, "It is important to classify and prioritize the research and innovation that needs to take place in both the short and long term in order to keep the ANA region safe and secure in the future. This research will guide our international ARCSAR partners, I'm not exactly sure what that means, in the future and their actions to lessen the probability and impact of catastrophes such as oil spillages and cruise ship accidents in
Well,
their
that's
region." Oh,
all right.
I
But this
can't
is,
wait for that.
but at least it's addressing it. So
Yeah.
this article addressed something that hasn't been addressed thus far. All they addressed,
Mhm.
and mostly everything, was gung ho, full speed ahead. Nothing could ever go wrong. All right. Well, guess
Yeah,
what?
that's true.
We are segueing to
Yes, we are. We are segueing.
Alaska. And actually, this was Alaska was bracing, and you guys all out there were probably a lot more attuned with what was going on because we were vacationing together and doing things and
Yeah.
camping. So we know that this happened, and Jim had told us that it was pretty hairy.
Right.
He wrote
Right.
me.
And look at that picture, Sandy. That first picture in this article of that Alaska braces for impact of historic storm level. That thing is a
Look at
giant
it.
cyclone
Gigantic.
barreling right through the Bering Strait, that place where
Wow.
I can see Russia from my house thing, right?
Oh,
Right through the Bering Strait and right into the Arctic.
look
So
at that.
think about that. What could that cyclone possibly do to the already really weak sea ice. We're at our low sea ice extent. We're also probably very thin in terms of volume and sea ice thickness. That
And we have, yeah.
cyclone, when it hits that sea ice, it's just going to mush it up.
And we do have a little vid too of what was going on before we move on. If you want to just look, I mean, you know, you guys may have seen it, but I'll play it anyway. And here we go. It's this one.
Locals in Hooper Bay, Alaska and surrounding areas are dealing with the aftermath of one of the worst storms the region has ever seen.
It was
was
tough
caused by
for
a massive
Alaska.
Pacific typhoon over the weekend. Authorities are currently assessing the destruction to determine the need for items like food and water. Residents are dealing with substantial damage to homes, roads, and various structures around the community. They are also experiencing power outages. So far, no one has been reported injured or killed. The small western community is home to about 21,000 residents. The entire 1,000-mile stretch of the coastline was affected by the storm. As the floodwaters continue to recede, more and more damage is being revealed. Alaska's Governor Mike Dunleavy has issued a disaster declaration and says they are moving quickly to provide relief for those affected. This is Inside.
Tonight, floodwaters are receding in western Alaska, revealing the damage after a historic storm. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti is tracking that and other weather extremes this weekend.
In Alaska, the governor has declared a state of disaster after the remnants of Typhoon Merbok caused unprecedented flooding. From Newtok to Nome, entire towns were completely submerged, with roads destroyed and homes ripped off their foundation.
We're trying to assess exactly what has occurred. Again, this is almost 1,000 miles worth of storm front.
Heavy rain has also moved into drought-stricken Northern California. This storm, though, expected to bring relief to weary firefighters. The mosquito fire has burned out of control for weeks. It's California's largest wildfire. Much of the region has seen only trace amounts of rain since January. State officials are hoping the storm, now moving through, can help bring containment. In Southern California, a reminder of just how dry and vulnerable these hillsides are to fire. Flames shot up near the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles last night, just after a concert. It caused anxiety, but little damage. And in Florida,
Rain on me!
wild weather forced Lady Gaga to call off her show after unpredictable lightning moved over her performance arena.
Get home safely.
And back here in California, the Sacramento area is bracing for up to 2 inches of rain over the next few days. That is more rain than that region has received over the past 9 months combined, Lilia.
Planet in distress from climate.
Okay, there's the Environmental Coffee House weather report.
No kidding, right?
But actually,
man, that was scary to see how that stuff was just coming in right from the ocean, you know, just sweeping through whatever little town that was, right?
Right. I know. Do you want to take this one? Do you want to take this one?
Oh, yeah.
We're doing good, and we're going to we're good on time, and we want to read this to you. Go ahead.
Right. So, guys, this is the article that happened after the storm. Never this severe. Alaska residents flee from flooding as powerful storm slams stay. And the governor issues a disaster declaration for impacted Western communities. So, this powerful storm traveling north through the Bering Strait on Saturday caused widespread flooding in several Western Alaska coastal communities, knocking out power and sending residents fleeing for higher ground. The force of the water moved some homes off their foundations, and one house in Nome was floating down a river until it got caught at a bridge. The storm is what remains of Typhoon Merbok, a storm that is also influencing weather patterns as far away as California, where strong winds had a rare late summer rainstorm were expected. In Alaska, there have been no reports of injuries or deaths from the storm. And this is from a spokesperson from the Alaska Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management said officials had warned communities that some places could see the worst flooding in 50 years and water could take up to 14 hours to recede. So Governor Mike Dunleavy on Saturday issued a disaster declaration for impacted communities, and this is his tweet. Just now, I verbally declared a disaster for communities impacted by the West Coast storm. SEOC has received no reports of injuries at this time. We will continue to monitor the storm and update Alaskans as much as possible. Among the hardest hit was Golovin, where most of the village's 170 or so residents either took shelter at the school or in 3 buildings on the hillside. Winds in the area were gusting over 95 kilometers per hour, and the water level was 3.35 meters above the normal high tide line and was expected to rise another 61 centimeters Saturday before cresting. Most of the lower part of the community is all flooded with structures and buildings inundated, said Ed Plum, meteorologist with National Weather Service in Fairbanks. Claire Bell Lewis, the facility manager for local tribal government, was among those who sought refuge on the hill overlooking Golovin. She and others were riding out the storm in the tribal office after securing items at their homes from the wind and helping their neighbors to do the same. The winds were howling. It was noisy. And then we have some pictures here about the flooding in Golovin. And the water was supposed to rise another 1 or 2 feet from where these pictures were at. Lewis has never expected a storm like this in the 20 years that she's lived in Golovin. We've had flooding in the past few times, but it was never this severe. We've never had homes moved from their foundations. There were also reports of flooding in Hooper Bay, St. Michael's, Unalakleet, and Chalukit, where waves broke over the berm in front of the community. So a lot of these coastal communities in Alaska are just protected by little berms, and they don't have ice anymore, clearly.
Wow.
So this is a pretty interesting picture. Look at this saloon and the water just sweeping up to the saloon. Holy cow.
Whoosh. Do I have a whoosh sound? I don't know if I have a whoosh sound. I might. I have ice ponds and but not the whoosh. Oh, wait. The splat. Okay, there you go.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. There you go, guys. We got a few new sounds. But
he said the...
Yeah. Go ahead.
He said the storm will track through the Bering Strait on Saturday and then lead into the Chukchi Sea. And then it's going to kind of park and weaken just over Point Hope, he said, of the community on Alaska's northwest coast. Yeah. He said there would be high water in the northern Bering Sea vicinity through Saturday night before starting to subside through Sunday. Rising water levels further north in the Chukchi Sea and the Kosbu Sound areas would persist into Sunday. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa. And you know what, Sandy? We're all about the Arctic tonight, as you can see, but you know, we haven't even mentioned all the big Hurricane Fiona. I mean, Puerto Rico.
In Puerto Rico? Yeah,
there's without
so much
happening. Without power. There's so much happening, but we're just focusing in on the Arctic right now. But I mean, there's so much happening in the world. It is impossible to put it in. Yeah.
Well, you know, Jen, I think we're going to skip the one on the. I want to go to the last one and have you the rolling the dice article, because I think we're making good time, and we have a pretty good one for the bring up the rear. And just so you know, Jim is in Fairbanks, Alaska. Everybody's asking in the chat. Jim Massa is in Fairbanks, and he had written and he had explained some of the things that were going on. He's okay. that I know of. He's fine. So I think I'm going to give it to Jen to bring up the rear because the show's been good, packed full of information, and this is I think this will be a good way to clip her up here. All right?
Absolutely. So strap in, fellas.
Strap in.
So strap in. So this is an opinion piece. If we keep rolling the dice, we'll eventually get our apocalypse. So let me just make this a little bit bigger. Which would be worse? A nuclear war orgasm? Oh my God. Herman Kahn's description of the Pentagon's nuclear war strategy circa 1960. I had to read that twice to make sure I was saying the right thing. So, yes, it is a war orgasm. Wargasm,
Dick
right?
Cheney knows that
well. Or a designer plague created in some secret bio-war lab. The plague, obviously, because it could theoretically wipe out the human race, whereas an all-out nuclear war probably can't. The distinction between a 99% wipeout and a 100% wipeout is insignificant if you happen to be one of the victims. But Oxford University philosopher Derek Parfit thought that it actually made a huge difference. If only 1% of the human race survived, they would, from its mistake, it might then continue for, say, 1 million. Even if the human population is limited to 1 billion next time round, that's 1 trillion lives in the balance. And for most of them, would probably be worth living. By the way, the climate change problem goes away instantly if you reduce the human population by 99%. Whereas, if 100% of the population dies now, all those potential future lives are also lost.
Wow.
As Parfit wrote, civilization only began a few thousand years ago. If we do not destroy mankind, these few thousand years may be only a tiny fraction of the whole of civilized human history. This perspective is sometimes called long-termism, and few people can manage to hold it onto it for very long. That's hardly surprising, because there has been little in our evolutionary history that really rewarded long-term thinking. We didn't even know about big threats to our survival, like giant asteroid strikes. And if we had known, there was nothing we could have done about it anyway. Now we do know about them, and they have multiplied because of our own inventions, but it took another Oxford philosopher, Toby Ord, to list and rank them. It turns out that the most dangerous threats are not human hardware, they're software. Quote, I put the existential risk this century at about 1 in 6. Russian roulette, Ord says in his book, the precipice. But existential actually means a threat to the existence of, in this case, the human race. And we're all quite hard to kill off. Nuclear war is not likely to do it. Even if it caused a full-scale nuclear winter, lasting for years and starving the overwhelming majority of the human race, a few breeding pairs, in Jim Lovelock's words, would almost certainly survive. A hothouse world or an extreme glaciation wouldn't do the trick either. The planet's climate has been through all sorts of extremes in its long history, and life survived them all. On a big planet like ours, there is always places where it's warm enough or cool enough to hang through the extreme times. The truly existential threats are the ones we might create ourselves, like AI that gets out of hand, or ethno-specific engineered killer virus that mutates just a little bit. But that's software or wetware, and few people take it seriously. As Ord points out, the international body responsible for the continued prohibition of bioweapons, the Biological Weapons Convention, has an annual budget of just 1.4 million, less than the average McDonald's restaurant. And only a few tens of millions is spent on research into AI safety, compared with many billions in general AI research. So, if we keep rolling the dice, sometime in the next few centuries, we're bound to get the apocalypse one way or the other. But Ord's prediction, even if it's accurate, is based on the assumption that we will carry on heedlessly and never develop the long-term perspective that would enable us to reduce the risks. In fact, many human beings are already starting to think long-term and act accordingly. Not all of us, and much too slowly, but it is happening. We are trying to change our entire economy to avert catastrophic climate change. We are even experimenting with ways to divert asteroids on a collision course with Earth. It's not nearly enough, but it's not bad when you consider that 500 years ago, most people didn't even know the Earth is round. And that was from Gwyn Dyer, who is an opinion columnist, and he is a London-based independent journalist.
Yeah,
and he is published in 45 countries. So there you go.
It's pretty good.
That was a very good piece. Yeah,
it
very
was.
Good piece, Sandy.
Thanks
for picking that out.
You've hit it out of the ballpark as far as time. And I just want to say thank you because Bila is here with me, and he is, Shalal, Bila, Osama, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to have he's helping me set up the computer that you guys were wonderful enough to donate, and it took long enough, and it's going to be a lot of wonderful help, and I'm very grateful. And Jennifer was here as my guest, and it's been a really amazing time to be with people that you care about and that are amazing. And Jennifer, you're amazing.
Oh, and so are you. And we did do some gardening, as promised.
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did. Oh, boy.
She had me in there digging with my hands.
Oh, Jennifer's an amazing gardener. Let me tell you. She's amazing. She was a great help. We had a wonderful time. I mean, we even went camping. We were on Lake Erie. It was wonderful. I love you, Jennifer. Thank you.
I love you too.
And we love all of you guys. Thank you so very much, everyone here, and for coming. No, Jen's not in New York. Dee Dee, she's home now. She's home. Yep, Dee Dee was asking. I don't even have an ending video. I have to bring something up. So give your parting goodbye so I can bring a video up.
Oh, man. I mean, it has been such an interesting show today, guys. I mean, we really dove deep into the geopolitics of the Arctic and all these different organizations and what the U.S. is doing and what Russia's it's going to happen.
Absolutely. I mean,
it's gonna happen.
You look at the video from that big construction company, and it's like, to me, that's the "We Are So Fucked" video, because nothing's gonna change. Every single country in the world, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, left, right, up, down. They all want to. It's going. And I hope you like the fire behind us. I took that video also, so it was. I made it into our background for the evening, and we were nice and toasty. Good night, everyone. Great. We will see you next week. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Good night. Good night. Good night. Love you.